Nemo Radio is on the air.
A, B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
Hey, it's John Nemo. Welcome back to another episode of Nemo Radio. Just laughing. I'm here to talk about scammers, fake scammers. And I think of my son Bailey. He is so precocious. He's a 14-year-old entrepreneur, and one of his passions is he loves messing with telemarketers and scam artists. So like almost every kid his age, Bailey has a cell phone, and like everyone else on earth, he gets scam calls, like 2 or 3 or 4 of them a day. So instead of being annoyed like the rest of us, Bailey has actually turned this into a fun game, and as he describes it, a public service. So what my son does is when he inevitably gets the scam call about an extended auto warranty, even though he's 14 and can't drive, or his, Microsoft Windows, which we don't have Microsoft computer. I would never allow that in my house. No PCs. Apple and Mac all the way. But anyway, he gets these ridiculous calls, and it's always somebody in a foreign country with a thick accent, and what he says is, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and just mess with them and see how long I can keep them on the phone confused. And that's my way of serving the general public, because while they're wasting time with me getting nowhere, that's how many ever fewer people they can call and bother. So I'm like, yeah, that's good logic. I'll roll with that. Go ahead. It's like, think about this. If you grew up in my era, the 70s and 80s, and, remember the prank calls? That was pre-caller ID, and it was landline telephones, and people would prank calls, and radio stations were famous for this, right? They'd prank call the radio station, and like, Bailey gets to do all the teenage shenanigans of a prank call without getting in trouble, right? Because he's getting prank called and harassed by these telemarketers that buy his phone number somewhere. So anyway, they'll call him, and he'll do all these characters. He's got Granny Edna with this fake voice, and then he'll pretend he's either 1 minute he's a little old lady, or else he's like a grumpy, old senile person, and they'll say stuff like, check your Windows operating software. And he'll be like, my Windows? Why do I have to open my Windows? Hold on, I can go open the window. And they're like, no, Microsoft Windows, sir. Microsoft Windows. What? Hold on, I have the window open. Oh, there's my neighbor, Llewellyn. How are you today? And like, he'll just do this whole tangent. And then he'll bring him right up to where he's going to get his credit card, and then he'll say, no, I can't find it. Hold on. I know I left it here somewhere. And he'll walk around, and he'll walk into the bathroom and flush the toilet, and just do the kind of ridiculous teenage boy pranks and antics that you and I still laugh at, even if we're grown males. Like, we still laugh at fart jokes and toilet jokes and all this stuff. So God bless the kid. He's doing us a public service, dealing with all these telemarketing scam calls. But anyway, I view it a little differently. I get annoyed by it, and I don't have time, frankly, to deal with it. But the thing I want to talk about in today's episode is, a very serious thing. It's something you're going to get solicited to do all the time, and you see people using it all the time. And it's really become apparent to me, basically how fake a lot of social proof and credibility is. And what I mean by that, I can think of a couple examples in my own experience where you have to really, and there's a good solution to all this, but let me give you a couple examples of pay to play or kind of fake authority, fake credibility, right? There's a classic one you see on LinkedIn where you see a person's LinkedIn photo, and in the photo it has a little bar that says as seen on Fox, NBC, CBS, and I've talked about this before. It drives me bonkers because I used to work in journalism, and then I worked in public relations, so I know what legitimate media credits are. Like, you actually got interviewed and featured on network TV if you're going to say CBS, whatever it is. But basically, you pay this company to teach you their secret system. And you know what their secret system is? You go to your local CBS affiliate television station's website. So where I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's WCCO TV. That's the CBS affiliate. And you pay to publish content like a press release on their website or an ad. And they basically have a paid paid content section like a lot of websites do, especially newspaper, magazine, media outlets, because they have to pay the bills. So you pay to like publish your press release on their website, and then you claim that as if you were featured on CBS, on the network. So what you do is you pay to publish on your local ABC, CBS, and NBC and Fox affiliates, your little press release on some random page of their website that no one ever sees. And then you put on your LinkedIn profile on your website as featured on Fox, NBC, CBS. And so whenever I see that, I always call, if I'm feeling kind of, like I want to mess with people, I'll call them out and be like, wow, where can I have a link to your interview with NBC? Was it the Today Show, the nightly news, like Dateline? Like, what was it? Right. And then inevitably people go quiet, or like, I'm like, I know the scam. But another one that I've seen, and I actually tested this one out myself because I was curious, was I got solicited by a guy from Pakistan, because of course, who said, hey, I can get your podcast ranked in the top 10 on Apple, in the Apple Podcast app. I can get it ranked top 10 in marketing in 24 hours. I was like, no way, right? And the idea, of course, is, you can claim now you have one of the world's top ranked podcasts, according to Apple's marketing charts, right? I'm up there with, Gary Vee and Seth Godin and whoever else, right, are at the top of the marketing charts. And so I was like, okay, fine. Like, and it was like $25. I'm like, okay, I just want to see what happens. And sure enough, the next day when I logged into the Apple Podcast app, I was in the top 10 on marketing. I'm like, wow. And so all the guy had done, he obviously has what you call like a server farm, or a bunch of computers, or a bunch of people on devices who went and clicked on, subscribed, linked to, downloaded, played an episode of my podcast. And they did it in such a volume and at such a time where it told Apple, whoa, this is red hot. This podcast is getting a ton of downloads and plays and listens and subscriptions. So it shot up the charts for one day, ranked me in the top 10, and I took a screenshot of it. And then I dropped off the face of the earth and it went back to normal, right? And so that's an example of buying fake credibility. And so the reason this came up was I got a couple more of these solicitations. I get them every day in my email. One was like, hey, we want to feature you. We are Business Coaching Worldwide magazine, and we want to feature you and do a big thing on you. And you've been recommended to us as one of the top leaders in your industry. And first, I'm not even a business coach, but second, like, okay, whatever. And of course, for a fee of $700, you'll get this and this and this. And it's basically people who are like, I created a website, I call it something, I'm claiming I have this much traffic. Because again, you can't, unless you really do a lot of digging, you're not going to know for sure how many people actually visit the website or how big their email list really is. They're just going to tell you it is. And then they're going to charge you money, and you're going to think and feel good about yourself, and then nothing happens, right? Another one that comes up, oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Hang on. Okay, now I remember, because this has also triggered me. So I'm looking to try to book myself on some podcasts as a guest, right? To get my brand out there, get more visibility. And one of the hardest things, by the way, you're listening to a podcast, so this is very apropos. One of the hardest things, and again, there's a whole cottage industry of companies and PR agencies and other people who are like, hey, I'm going to book you on podcasts. And it's expensive, by the way. If you're looking at having someone book you on a podcast, it could be $250 to $350 per booking, right? So, it gets really expensive. It could be a lot more, actually. It could be thousands. And so, again, there's all kinds of different tools for this and companies. And what's really funny is I get solicited all the time for Nemo Radio. Hey, put this person on, put this person on, put this person on. And sometimes it's really pretty big, well-known people or people who have big, authority, credibility. And I'm like, you do realize I'm not like, the number one podcast in the world. Like I get, several thousand downloads a month, but I'm not like Gary Vee or something where I'm getting 2 million downloads. Like, but see, they don't know. They're just trying to book and get their fee. And so I actually found a great tool. And I'll link to all my favorite podcast tips and trainings of how to book yourself as a guest and do it yourself, templates, all that, in the show notes. But there's a great tool I bought. It's called Podchaser, and they have a pro subscription. It's not cheap. It's like, gosh, I think it was like $3,000 or $4,000 for a year. But I'm familiar with this because back in the day when I used to do public relations, we would buy, and this was, again, pretty early in the internet era, so early, 2000s to like the 2010s, we would buy subscriptions to, gosh, what were they called? Like Cision and Vocus and Bacon's. And so they were basically like there were companies that would gather the contact info for people at every single media outlet you could find around the United States. So newspapers, radio, TV stations, and they would scrape the websites, and they would even call the media outlets. Because when I worked for the Associated Press, these companies would call and say, hey, I just want to verify you're John Nemo, you're a reporter for the Associated Press, this is your phone and email. I'm like, yeah, okay, thanks. And then they would put me in their guide so people could pitch me. What do you cover, right? So I'm used to paying for that. Like, you pay for data, right? You pay for who to contact to pitch a story. So Podchaser works a couple different ways. One is you pay this fee, and what they've done is they do a similar thing where they crawl the whole web, and they try to like find every single podcast on earth. And then they use a combination of like algorithms and data crunching and numbers and then human signals to kind of rate podcasts and give you an estimate. And so like what I'm doing is I'm using it to try to look for good podcasts to book myself on. And what I like about Podchaser is they will give you kind of estimated monthly listeners and downloads, because again, booking yourself on a podcast is great, but what if the podcast has 6 listeners? Like literally, like you're spending an hour of your time, maybe 6 people hear it, as opposed to 6,000 or 600,000 or 6 million. And so one of the things I've enjoyed with Podchaser, and again, it's not 100% accurate because there is no, I don't know if I'm getting into the podcast nerd world here, but if you find this interesting, there is no one clear-cut statistic or tracking thing to know how many listens or how many subscribers a podcast actually has. YouTube, it's very easy to go to a YouTube video and publicly see it's got this many views, it's got this many subscribers on a channel for everyone to see. It's super easy to track. Podcasts don't do that because there's so many different podcast distribution platforms and they control the data certain different ways. So Podchaser, I compared it to my podcast and clients' podcasts and was like, it's pretty close. It's pretty accurate, or it's ballpark. Like I have one client that he does about 10,000, downloads a month, and Podcaster has him at like 6,000 to 9,000 downloads a month. So I'm like, yeah, that's close, So anyway, one guy's show, I was looking at me pitching myself on a show, and it said globally one of the top 2% most listened to podcasts worldwide. Top 2% most listened to podcasts worldwide. I'm like, wow, that's quite an audacious claim to put in your show description. So I looked at the podcast data, in this Podchaser tool, this paid tool, and it's like 700 listeners a month. I'm like, nope. Okay, you're lying, man. Because like the biggest podcast, just to give you an idea, like Gary Vaynerchuk's 2 to 3 million listeners a month, right? Tim Ferriss is millions a month, Joe Rogan, so it's like the really big ones are in the millions. It was interesting, like some of the shows that are so popular, or you think they're popular because you're in that little bubble. When I looked at the numbers, I'm like, they don't really have that many listeners, But again, podcasting, the other thing, not to get on a tangent, is it's really about the quality. Like you're listening right now, you're a human being. I'm in your head, right, for 20, 30, 40 minutes a week. Like that's so valuable, the relationship building. Cliff Ravenscraft is a really smart podcast guy. He once explained it to me. I was like, how do you get excited if your podcast is only getting like 50 listeners or 100 listeners or, 600 people a week? He's like, dude, if I told you could be at the front of a room of 600 people every week and they would listen to your every word for 30, 40 minutes a week, wouldn't you get excited? Because you could talk about whatever, and ideally in theory, because you've made your show specific and niche to a topic, they're interested in your stuff. Like, wouldn't you be excited up in a room in front of 600 people every week, building a relationship with them? Like, well, yeah, I would. So it's like, that's what a podcast is, So it's like, oh, okay. Like, it makes a lot of sense to do them. But anyway, again, it's just the whole issue, and what I'm coming back to with this particular episode is the fake authority and fake scarcity. And I'll give you one more example, and then I'll explain how to overcome this and how to kind of cut through it. Like one day I was, and I tell this story in an email and other places too, but like one day I was literally sending my kids on a blob into a lake in Minnesota. If you don't know what a blob is, it's basically a trampoline in the water. And it's just like this big puffy cushion kind of thing. It's shaped like a trampoline. And it has a ladder or something, a little area to climb, or you climb up a dock and you jump on it and you land. And then the person sitting on the pillow kind of thing goes flying in the air. So we're up on vacation doing this, and I'm sending my kids, just launch them into the water because I have a little girth. And one day I'm doing that, and the next day I wake up and I'm one of the best-selling business authors of all time. Or one of the top, that's not best-selling, I have one of the top ranked business books of all time. okay, what? Like, okay, so what happened was I get this email from a company. I think they're called Book Authority. And they're like, hey, we're so excited to tell you your book, LinkedIn Riches, has been named one of the top 100 all-time business books, one of the top 100 business books of all eternity. And I look at the list, and it's like How to Win Friends and Influence People, you know, and like The Alchemist and all these other like famous books, and then mine. I'm like, dude, I love LinkedIn Riches. I put a link in the show notes to get a free copy, but it is not one of the top 100 business books I've ever written. Like, come on, that's ridiculous, right? And as much as I love my own stuff, it's like it's a book on how to use LinkedIn. It's, and it's great, but come on, like let's, and I've written 8 books, and I would say I got other books I would nominate ahead of that one as far as like depth and quality and strategy and impact, but whatever. So what I came to find out was this company basically just was using some Amazon algorithms, and at the time I had just, republished LinkedIn Riches. So I've been publishing that book and updating it since 2014. So every year or so, I have to do an updated, revised edition because it's about LinkedIn, a social media platform, the internet. Guess how much changes? Like, if you're publishing a printed book, even a Kindle book, an audiobook about an online platform and social media, things are changing all the time. So I'm constantly, updating the book. And so basically, I go in and I look at the list. I'm like, okay, I'm better than all these famous books. It was just ridiculous. I can't remember the names of them, but I'm like, there's no way. And so it basically was because my book was selling really well on Amazon at the time, selling like 10, 20 copies a day, something like that. They just pulled the Amazon algorithm and were like, well, out of the current business books, like this is one of the top 100, at least in terms of some sort of metric or sale. And then what's really funny is I published another new book, Content Marketing Made Easy, and that made this list of like best new content books of 2020 or whatever it was at the time. And it was like, no one read the book on their website. Nobody read it. Like it was based off, I think, the algorithm of a number of positive reviews, sales ranking, some other stuff. So it was just kind of put together. And again, I think the whole idea behind Book Authority was, hey, use this as credibility and social proof. And oh, by the way, if you want to pay, you can get this and this and this service, and you can get this kind of press release and whatever. And so not a bad thing. It was just more like, again, I could walk around now and climb on stage every time and say, oh, please introduce our speaker, John Nemo. He's the author of one of, the top 100 business books of all time, LinkedIn Riches, right? And if you said that, I would laugh myself off the stage. Like, come on, no. Like, it's a great book, but no. And again, but you could claim that and people wouldn't know. Like, here's another one. I got to give one more example, and I'll talk about the solution to this. I didn't realize until now, like, you can literally pay a company to make your book, guaranteed, make your book a Wall Street Journal, New York Times, USA Today bestseller. You can pay a company, I think it's like $25,000 to $45,000, and they will guarantee that you hit the bestseller lists on USA Today, Wall Street Journal, and New York Times or whatever. And again, think about that, right? And think about the credibility we give books and how books are promoted of New York Times bestseller, Wall Street Journal bestseller, USA Today bestseller. And it's like, oh, wow, well, it must be amazing if all these people bought the book and it made bestseller lists. The reality is, no, today you can just buy it. Like, you can buy your way onto the list. And that would explain why some of the books we've read from those lists are garbage, right? So again, all this to say, people are more skeptical than ever. Credibility and social proof and authority is more kind of in this gray area, right? Because you can kind of buy access now. You can pay to play. I can literally pay for my next book to make it a USA Today bestseller. So again, the thing that's going to solve all this is two things. One is if you're going to play that game and claim I've been featured here, here, and here, you better have links to the actual articles. Right. So like I can say I was featured in Inc. magazine. I was featured in Business Insider, Social Media Marketing World. I spoke, like Social Media Examiner podcast, Entrepreneur on Fire. But I can link to the podcast episodes. I can link to the articles. I can link to the speech I gave. Right. So it's like people can check and legitimately be like, oh, okay, I was featured by LinkedIn's official marketing blog. And here's a link to the interview from 2016 or whatever it was. So part one is if you're going to claim that stuff, you got to be able to back it up. But the bigger piece, and again, this is way more important, is substance. Substance is always going to rule over style in terms of at the end of the day, people will not, at least in my experience, again, I think having like eye-catching authority and credibility will make people stop their scroll long enough to look at your stuff. It will stop them long enough to go, wow, this person looks on paper like a big deal and an award winner and critically acclaimed. I'm going to at least look now a little deeper. But if you don't have any substance behind that, and what I mean is content, they're not going to give you money. And that's the key thing is like, even when I'm selling done-for-you LinkedIn lead generation services, I have all this social proof and all this credibility and all these accolades. And oh, by the way, I have multiple testimonials from real people, full name, company name. You can verify they're a real person on LinkedIn. You can look them up. Saying, hey, I made $100,000 on LinkedIn from using John's lead generation service. I made $50,000. I made $30,000. Like, I have legit, honest to God, real people there with dollar amounts, which you never see with a lot of LinkedIn lead gen agencies. Here's the real person, job title, everything, and the dollar amounts, right? Like, that's what matters. And even that's not enough. No one's ever come to me and said, well, I looked at your testimonials and social proof. Here's my money. Like, they want to know what's the substance and will this work for me? Those are the two key things that I've discovered and learned early on with my business coach too, was like, it's great to have all that and it's great branding, but that's not enough to complete the transaction. So the substance part, what does that mean? That means if you're really as great as you say and you've been featured in all these places, give me an example of how that would work and how it would help me get what I want. So for example, when I'm trying to win people over to, hire me or buy one of my online courses to do LinkedIn lead generation, I give away a ton of free content, and I give away like the ultimate LinkedIn profile template. I give away my whole book, one of the top 100 business books of all time, LinkedIn Riches. I give the whole book away for free on the front of my website in the show notes of this podcast, the audiobook, the PDF, the ebook, whatever you want, free. And in those books is all my best stuff. It's all my best tips. It's all my best strategies. It's all my best scripts. It's all my best templates. I give it all away, all the secret sauce, right? And the idea is I know that I have to demonstrate expertise and that you have to try it and see it and go, wow, this makes sense. This resonates. This is what I'm looking for. I totally get why he would do a LinkedIn profile that way. I made those adjustments and I immediately saw my profile views go up and man, people are complimenting me. This really works. Like, that makes them go, okay, there's substance behind this. I can try out your tips and see that they are really good and high level and not something I've seen everyone else sharing. And they want to feel like this works for me. Like I see it and I get it and it applies to my world. And that's the other big piece that a lot of people are missing. Like, for example, I follow a lot of different agency owners on Twitter, right? And on LinkedIn. And a lot of them are young hustle, like I'm already making 7 figures, 8 figures, 9-figure agency, and just like life is easy. And like they're never really letting you behind the scenes of how hard it is. But I'll follow them because they'll give away tons of free content. And I'm always like, well, part of it is I'm running my own lead generation agency and I want to see like, is there anything I'm missing? Is there anything they're doing that's really unique, different, better that we can learn from and implement and grab and, all this stuff. And, I'll get their tips and I'm like, man, these are so basic. Like even for just people who aren't LinkedIn nerds like me, it's like, well, duh. Like it's not like when they're like, comment here and and I'll send you my free secret checklist of the best LinkedIn scripts ever. They made me $10 million. And you get the scripts and they're like, say to the person, how is business? That was one of the scripts. How's business treating you? I'm like, really? Like that's your $8 million script? Like, come on, man. Like, so again, there's no substance there. There's nothing there that says to me, I'm so impressed and I got quick wins that I want to give you money or pay more attention. And I think that's a key thing. And I have so many people run into me that'll say, well, I don't want to give away my best stuff and my best secrets. Then people won't need me and they won't give me money and they won't buy my services or buy my product. And I found that that's just not true. Like the reality is if you give away your best stuff, you immediately separate yourself from the competition. You demonstrate authority. You demonstrate expertise. Most importantly, people get quick wins from it. They get momentum. They get excited, and they want more. They're going to come back to you and say, wow, your free LinkedIn template, man, I'm already crushing it. I'm getting all these profile views, new invites. It makes so much more sense. I see why it works so good. Could I get your help doing this? Or could I, hire you to get me leads now to send them to the profile? So they either come to you and say, that's great, what else do you have, and pay you, or even if they just use it and get good results, they now become a salesperson for you and a referral source without you even knowing or asking. What are they going to do? People are going to see their profile and be like, wow, that's amazing. Your profile looks awesome. Oh, yeah, I got this guy's free template. You should go download it. You should use him. You should hire him. Because there's always going to be people that are like, oh, cool. Yeah, I don't want to do the work. Just do it for me. I'm that way, for instance, with Amazon ads. Like, obviously, I have 8 books. Books are my number one funnel to get new leads and new clients. Books are the best tool on earth to help a ice cold prospect get to know, like, and trust you, and then also see you demonstrate expertise and authority. It makes high ticket sales so easy if someone has gone through your book first, and that's why LinkedIn Riches, I'm like, I got to get as many copies out there as I can. So I give it away for free all over the internet, but then also so many people just go straight to Amazon who've never heard of me. I know it's crushing my ego, but 99.999% of the world has never heard of me. So they don't know I have a book and I'm giving it away for free, but they know about Amazon, and they use Amazon like a search engine to solve their problems. So if they want to get better at parenting, they go to Amazon and type how to parent an introvert, how to parent a rebellious child, and they find a book and they look for the reviews and ratings and book description and they buy it, or they go to Google, right? And so that's the idea with Amazon. And I'm like, okay, yeah, they're going to Amazon typing LinkedIn marketing, LinkedIn book. I want my book to show up with all the reviews and accolades and kudos. And they go, oh yeah, this book looks good. I'll buy it for $1 or whatever I have it for on Kindle. And then I have a whole funnel, after the book of, hey, you want more? Sign up here for free, bonus training online with videos and extra bonus templates, blah, blah, blah. They like that, put them into a course. They like that, done for you, whatever. So I want to get the book everywhere on Amazon. So I don't want to learn Amazon ads, and I don't want to have to figure out the algorithms and the bidding structures and the keywords. So I just hired a guy to do it. Well, how did I find someone? I found the smartest Amazon guy I know who came recommended and who has a 7-figure business built off of Amazon and built off of ads. And I was like, hey, you don't necessarily do book ads, but you've literally built a 7-figure business just from traffic you got on Amazon, using Amazon ads. Can I just have you help me sell your book? Sure. Done. Right? Because he's demonstrated expertise. He's the real deal. I've looked at his stuff and been like, that's brilliant. I love what he's doing. And he's hired. So all that to say, this is getting a long episode, but anyway, don't fall for the scams. Don't do the pay to play. I mean, I think if you do have legitimate, I'm not dismissing it. It is super important and great for your personal brand and your company to have accolades and authority and credibility and media credits and interviews and as featured in. All this stuff is awesome. Testimonials, all of it's awesome. Just make sure that you can actually back it up and show the link to the Forbes article or show the link to Inc. magazine or whatever it is. Okay, that's part one. Part two, and much more important and much more encouraging if you don't have all these accolades and social proof, is you don't need it. Substance. Like, you can literally go on right now, create content for free, audio, video, written, share it with people. They will get quick wins. They will want more, and they will come back to you and do business with you. So make sure the substance is really good. Make sure what you're giving away is your best stuff, your best tips. Engineered to get people quick wins with, as easily as possible, with as little legwork as possible. That's why far and away my most popular free content that I give away is templates, scripts, fill in the blank, copy paste, right? So like my ultimate LinkedIn profile template is literally like copy paste this template as your headline. The first sentence of your LinkedIn profile, copy paste this sentence, fill in the blanks. It's very effective. It's very powerful. It looks awesome, and it's easier for people to fill in so they feel excited and successful that they took action, got a result, their profile looks 100 times better. Now what? What's next? And they'll refer people, and on it goes. So there you go. Hope you found this helpful. I'm going to let Bailey know that you appreciate him handling all the telemarketers and scam callers. He will be thrilled to hear that. He will keep doing his civic duty to harass and harangue and confuse and, just dodge them and keep them and just laughing his head off the whole time. So with all that said, hope you found this episode helpful, and we'll see you soon here again on Nemo Radio.